He has well over 400 head of bison up there, plus many more of the Texas Longhorn.
Hey guys, Cole here from Cross Timbers Bison, filling in for Dusty today. And we are not in Oklahoma, we are actually in Lampe, Missouri at Dogwood Canyon. And they've got about 2,000 acres of pretty cool park here with some water mills and some waterfalls and canyons, lots of cool stuff. They've even got some elk, some Texas Longhorns, and yes, a large bison herd. So Jimmy Morris, owner of Bass Pro Shop, set up this place about 20 years ago. Come check it out with us. You guys are gonna enjoy it. They've even got a little surprise of a white buffalo, so stay tuned.
Really cool sound. I still get these crazy goosebumps every time I hear it. I love it. Oh, like he's trying. Maybe he's hoarse. Golden rainbow trout wouldn't make it in nature because of their whitish appearance. They definitely get picked off easily during the winter time when it's very hard to find food. Texas Longhorn, but I don't like to mess with Hercules, man. Seeing the whites of his eyes is pretty crazy.
Alright y'all, we're going to take a quick tour of the museum here at Dogwood Canyon for everyone who's interested in learning some history about the park. There are some pretty awesome historical artifacts from both the Native American cultures and the early settlers of the region that I want to share with you. But if you don't really care to experience that part of the tour, you can skip to 5 minutes and 48 seconds for the nature park and trout streams, or 7 minutes and 27 seconds for the wildlife tour, including deer, elk, longhorn, and the bison herd. Alright, the first part of the museum tour showcases some traditional cowboy gear worn by the original settlers of the area. And right next to that is a display of artifacts used by local Sioux and Lakota tribes. Here you can see a peace pipe and a flute that were used in early greeting ceremonies between the two cultures, as well as rifles that were shared in early hunts. There's also an awesome display of Caddo, Quapaw, and Mississippian pottery. The local tribes use these for storing food, transporting water, and preparing meals. One of the most unique features about this little museum is that it's actually located on a bridge over the river. And as you can see, this river is full of stocked rainbow trout ranging over 10 to 20 pounds. Here we have a pretty incredible display of arrowheads, tomahawks, and bows that were used by Plains Indians in this region. If you can believe it, many of these artifacts were actually recovered on the property during its construction, including this pipe tomahawk wrapped in otter fur that was thought to have been used by the Dakota and Eastern Sioux around the 1870s. And then here's one of my favorite displays that showcases some archaic period axe heads dating back to 6000 BC. They also feature many tools that were made of stone and bone, like these bone awls, plummets, a Sioux tobacco cutting board and knife, bone fishhooks, and even a copper trade armband. And as you can tell by the bobcat tooth and shell necklaces, the Lakota tribes were also fans of jewelry. Another awesome feature of this museum is this fossil display of a stag moose that could grow up to 1,500 pounds and reach 8 feet tall to the shoulder. Unfortunately, its large size did not help at all at the end of the Ice Age, and competition between large-bodied mammals led to the devastating mass extinction in North America. Eventually, the stag moose was replaced by the now iconic American bison as the king of the American plains. The last part of the museum showcases some weaponry that was used in the Civil War, like these battle sabers, bayonets, and this Springfield Model 1861 .58 caliber rifle, which was the most widely used weapon during the Civil War. Alright, well that wraps up the historical piece of the video. I hope y'all enjoyed that museum tour and that you learned something new. Now it's time to head over to the nature park tour with the trout streams and the wildlife preserves.
On the last two upright beams, there's some more pictures of these gentlemen working on the bridge here. Mr. Schwartz was nice enough to leave us some of the tools that the Amish work on these bridges. You'll see another trickle coming down the back side of that rock wall over by a mossy area. That's one of our 32 springs here in the park.
The park features miles of clear water streams that are loaded with rainbow trout, and they're fishable by either purchasing an hourly trout permit or by hiring one of the Dogwood Canyon fishing guides. This particular pond, the Glory Hole, is reserved strictly for the owner and his friends. During the tour, our guide informed us that the last two people given permission to fish this pond were actually former President George W. Bush and NFL legend Peyton Manning.
You're doing a really good stretch for us today. Little ear scratch going on. The left that stood up for me, we call him Repeat. And the one right in the middle, his name is George Strait. George actually gets his name because his horns are longer and straighter than the other two. They're actually 6 feet across from tip to tip. They are some beautiful animals, aren't they? These three are all steers. And just to give you a little history on the Texas Longhorn, they were originally Spanish cattle. Christopher Columbus brought them over to the New World, and when he did, he originally dropped them off in Costa Rica. He left them there for a little while, and they were crazy sought after because these animals had this ability to be taken way up north and way down south, and in all that temperate range, they seemed to be able to do okay all by themselves. They could find their own grass, find their own watering holes. Even their females seemed to birth on their own without extra help. So when they did bring them over from Costa Rica into the mainland U.S., they actually bred them with larger cattle that grew them 30% in size to what you see today. They are some big boys. That's why I'm always trying to get a stand-up on them, so we just get an idea. Oh, there we get to see George with those long horns. He actually won some contest for a picture contest. And the picture was like him standing kind of sideways, and he had his horns turned so you could see his body plus... I don't like to mess with Hercules, man. Seeing the whites of his eyes is pretty crazy. Him and Ninja have actually been knocking each other around. You won't be able to see until maybe we get a stand-up for one of these guys. People checking out elk the first time they get to see them might assume that their anatomy is a lot like that of a deer, but it's actually closer to that of cattle. That's why we call them bull and cow elk. They actually reach down, eat this grass, then they take that down into one's stomach, and eventually they'll pop that back up into their mouth and do something called chewing the cud, where they reach you up all of that grass. You can see him doing that now. Oh, he stopped for a second. That's what they're doing if you ever see them just chewing but not reaching down. They've already popped some of that back up and they're Yeah, he is definitely very beautiful. I might try that trick on everybody else, but I'm not that stupid. But they are very beautiful. We even have a little baby here in front. Dakota actually won a couple Guinness Book World Records. He won the record for the most tweeted photo and for the most liked post on Facebook. He has well over 400 head of bison up there, plus many more of the Texas Longhorn. Up there he has bulls and cows, heifers, and even baby Longhorn. As I peel around the back, I'm going to give a pause because I definitely want to give y'all a good picture of Ninja. He is a big boy. These animals are about 1,400 to 2,000 pounds. But he bought one that went here, and the other guy actually went up to his nature golf course, which actually brings me to a very important fact. These guys, I gotta stop saying these guys. The bison are crazy athletic. They can run 35 to 40 miles an hour faster than a horse, and at a full run they can actually jump 5 to 6 feet up in the air. Mr. Morris found this out the hard way because he put 5 or 6 foot fences out there so they could eat the tall grass in the back of his nature golf course. But they had hopped that fence and he found them over eating the sweet grass at the golf course. So now he has taller fences. They've only been growing since March, and they actually haven't grown at all in 2.5 months. It's the fastest growing bone of any land mammal that grows at a speed of 2 inches a week at its fastest growing point. This is a very small one. You see my fingers very easily reach around it. We have some in the back of our vehicles that I can't get my hands around. Under the velveteen, they have this stuff that goes over them that looks a lot like their fur, and it's a second skin, and that helps them grow this quickly. It stretches as their antlers grow and allows them to put all those nutrients right into this. They're made of pure calcium, just barely smaller than Hercules. In fact, if you see him standing sometimes, it looks like Ninja's bigger, but he's just younger, that's all. The difference between the two animals is really only about 70 to 100 pounds. As we're coming around and checking out the cow herd, you might see some of these younger males here over on the left. There's 4 of them. They have the spikes on their head. Those spikes are what you'll see on a 1-year-old. Their first year, that's all they grow, and then they'll fall off. They're part of the cow herd, along with these other ones you see right above them that have just very minuscule antlers. They're about 1.5 to 2-year-olds. They're very confused at the rut season right now because they're used to being part of this cow herd. But as soon as Junior walks out of there and they're back to being normal, most likely all of that group will go back into the cow herd. I hear him. I can't see in an angle from here. Is there any undulating under him? Well, a lot of times he does both at the same time, so he's going to bugle while he's spraying all over himself.